Have you ever felt like you're fighting a battle no one sees? Like every day you wake up already drained, as if your energy has been quietly stolen overnight? What if I told you this silent struggle is more common than you think? And it's not just in your head. There's an invisible war raging inside most of us. It's a fight we rarely acknowledge aloud, not because it's hidden, but because we've come to accept it as normal. The foggy mornings, the lack of motivation, the struggle to find joy or even a simple connection, all of it feels like part of the daily grind. We blame our jobs, endless screens, even the weather for how we feel. But what if the real culprit is something deeper, something chemical? At the heart of this battle lies dopamine, the often misunderstood brain molecule. Dopamine isn't merely the pleasure chemical everyone talks about. It's actually the driving force behind motivation, focus, and the satisfaction that keeps us moving forward. When dopamine flows freely, life feels vibrant and purposeful. Your energy channels with clarity. Your emotions find room to breathe. And even small tasks seem manageable. But when dopamine dips too low, everything grows heavy. Effort feels exhausting, joy feels distant, and your mind seems trapped in a haze. In today's world, where constant overstimulation clashes with chronic fatigue, many of us are unknowingly running on empty. The great news? Reclaiming your dopamine balance isn't a mystery or a medical puzzle. You don't need a prescription or a drastic life overhaul to reignite that inner spark. There are natural, powerful ways to rewire your brain, restore that essential balance, and awaken your motivation from within. This is exactly what we'll explore together today. These 10 simple yet transformative practices aren't about achieving perfection. They're about reconnecting with yourself, rediscovering the small, often overlooked habits that can shift your entire emotional landscape. If you've been feeling stuck, numb, or just not quite like your true self, this episode is made for you. Because boosting dopamine, when done thoughtfully and consistently, doesn't just make you feel better. It helps you become clearer, stronger, and more deeply aligned with who you really are. So let's embark on this journey, not as a frantic chase for fleeting happiness, but as a steady return to balance, presence, and energy that flows naturally from inside you, not from outside validation. Your mental and emotional well-being aren't luxuries. They're the foundation for everything you want to build in life. And now is the time to rebuild that foundation, one mindful step at a time. Have you ever noticed how a simple walk outside can completely change your perspective? It's not just the fresh air or a break from screens. The fog lifts, tension eases, thoughts clear, and you feel more connected to yourself. That's dopamine at work, a subtle, natural reset for your mind and spirit. Let's dive in and discover how to nurture that reset every day. Explore the powerful role of movement for your brain. What's happening inside your brain is essentially a chemical dance. Even the simplest, slow, and gentle movements trigger dopamine building on the importance of dopamine and how it influences your emotions and energy. Let's production, the spark that fuels motivation, joy, and emotional balance. In today's performance-driven society, we often treat movement as a chore, a number to hit. 10,000 steps, 45-minute workouts, calories burned. But your body doesn't need grand displays to heal. It simply needs to move. Dopamine doesn't wait for the perfect gym session or intense workout to activate. It responds to rhythm, flow, the soft return of breath, blood circulation, and balance. Honestly, when we feel low, depressed, anxious, or disconnected, movement is usually the first thing we stop doing. We sit, scroll endlessly, sleep too much, and spiral downward. Ironically, that's exactly when movement is most needed, not to impress others or push yourself harder, but to reset. Every form of stagnation, whether physical or emotional, signals that something inside needs motion, not more thinking. This isn't just modern wellness talk. The Stoics understood this over 2,000 years ago. Cleanthes, one of the early Stoics, was a manual laborer. He worked through the night hauling water and spent his days in study and contemplation. For him, physical labor wasn't separate from mental clarity. It was the gateway to it. He moved his body so his mind could stay sharp. That was his rhythm. That was his discipline. And this idea doesn't require ancient robes or modern fitness apps to apply. Imagine you're overwhelmed at work. Your instinct might be to sit longer, grind harder, solve problems by thinking more. But what if the answer is simply a 10-minute walk outside? What if the movement itself, the break, the rhythm, the sunlight, and the silence shift your brain chemistry just enough to restore your clarity? On a neurological level, movement helps regulate not just dopamine, but serotonin, norepinephrine, and endorphins, the entire orchestra of your emotional well-being. Movement doesn't erase your problems, but it changes your capacity to face them. And here's the best part. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to run, wear fancy shoes, or track your activity. You just need to begin right now. Stand up, stretch your arms, gently move your neck, walk barefoot around your home with intention. If you can, step outside. Let your senses reconnect with the real world, not the one on your phone. Don't do it because you feel broken. Do it because your body was never meant to stay still for so long. Do it because motion is truth. Because a mind in motion finds more answers than a mind stuck in isolation. Healing isn't dramatic. It's the slow, steady return to something simple: presence. Make movement part of your daily rhythm, not as punishment, but as permission. Permission to reconnect with yourself. Permission to release stress rather than store it. Permission to feel your body again, not as a burden but as an ally. So ask yourself right now, what kind of movement can I give myself today? Not what the world expects, not what looks good online, but what your body truly needs. Trust it, honor it, then move, even slowly. Because in that movement, dopamine flows, and with it, a deeper sense of being alive returns. Building on the connection between movement and dopamine we discussed earlier, let's now take a closer look at how nutrition directly influences the delicate chemistry of your brain. Have you ever noticed how, for a brief moment, biting into something sweet, salty, or comforting seems to quiet the noise inside your mind? But here's something we rarely stop to consider. Every time we eat emotionally, we aren't just fueling our bodies, we're rewiring our brains. And often this rewiring disrupts the natural balance of our most powerful neurotransmitters, especially dopamine. Dopamine is deeply linked to what you eat. The foods you consume literally shape how your brain functions, how you feel emotionally, and how motivated or foggy your mind becomes. Protein-rich foods, healthy fats, and those high in the amino acid tyrosine serve as the essential building blocks for dopamine. They provide your brain with the fuel it needs to focus, to take action, and to remain steady. However, when you swap real nourishment for sugar spikes, processed comfort foods, or emotional binge eating, you might feel a brief lift, maybe 10 minutes of relief, but often feel worse for the rest of the day. While the Stoics didn't talk about amino acids or neurochemistry, they understood a timeless truth. Discipline in what you consume leads to clarity in how you think. Seneca once said, "Drunkenness is nothing but voluntary madness." He wasn't referring only to alcohol, but warning us against any form of overindulgence that clouds the mind and weakens our will. Food, especially in times of stress or sadness, often becomes that very form of escape. So the question isn't what should I eat to lose weight or what's trendy right now. The real question is, what kind of food helps me feel mentally clear and emotionally balanced? That's a very different conversation. It's not about guilt or shame. It's about awareness. How does your body respond after eating? How does your mind feel 2 hours later? Did that meal give you energy, or did it drain it? Imagine starting your day with protein, greens, and hydration. Before you even check your phone or face the outside world, you've sent a message to your brain. I value stability over stimulation. You've built dopamine naturally, not through caffeine or sugar, but through real nourishment. And your body responds with clarity. Your emotions become less volatile. Your cravings quiet down. You feel more grounded. Now contrast that with skipping meals or emotionally overeating late at night. You wake up groggy and unmotivated. Your blood sugar crashes mid-morning. You begin seeking dopamine through external sources, endless scrolling, snacking, snapping at those around you. And it's not because you're lazy or lacking discipline. It's because your brain chemistry is trying to compensate for what your food didn't provide. This is why eating with wisdom is one of the greatest acts of self-respect. Not clean eating, not perfection, but wisdom. The quiet knowledge that says, this is how I want to feel, so this is what I choose to put into my body. That's not a diet. That's identity. That's self-mastery. And yes, it takes effort. It takes awareness to ask, am I really hungry or am I avoiding something else? It takes strength to step away from the quick fixes. But every time you choose nourishment over numbing, you strengthen your emotional core. You tell your nervous system, I don't need to run, I can sit, I can feel, I can respond, not react. Food is information. Every bite sends a message to your cells, your mood and your motivation. And when you choose wisely, building on the awareness of how mindful eating shapes your mental clarity, let's now turn to the essential role of sleep in restoring dopamine balance and renewing your energy. When you build your meals with intention, you're not merely feeding your body, you're shaping your future mental state one plate at a time. So the next time you stand in front of the fridge or open a cabinet during a stressful moment, pause, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? Maybe it's fuel, maybe it's rest, maybe it's connection, or perhaps simply to be still. Don't just feed your feelings, feed your future, because what you consume becomes what you feel. If you want to feel strong, clear, and motivated, your food must reflect that choice. Next, sleep. Sleep as if you are rebooting your very soul. When was the last time you truly rested? Not just close your eyes, but gave your body and mind permission to fully reset. In a world that glamorizes hustle and silently burns people out, sleep is often treated as an afterthought, as if it were a luxury instead of a necessity. As if you could just keep pushing, caffeinating, and powering through without consequences. But here's the truth. Your nervous system is never silent. Sleep is not optional. It is a biological, non-negotiable. When you skip it, rush it, or disrespect, your brain stops functioning as it should, especially when it comes to producing dopamine. Dopamine production depends heavily on deep, restorative sleep. At night, your brain performs internal housekeeping. It clears out toxins, resets hormonal balance, and restores neurotransmitters that regulate your emotions. Without quality sleep, your dopamine receptors become less sensitive, meaning you need more stimulation to feel the same motivation, and eventually, you stop feeling much at all. Have you noticed how the smallest problems seem overwhelming after a poor night's sleep? Or how your patience thins, your motivation disappears, and emotions feel louder and more intense? That's not just tiredness. It's your brain operating with a drained internal battery, and it simply can't function well or sustainably. The Stoics may not have had sleep studies or neuroscience, but they understood the vital link between rest and reason. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to rise and do the work of a human being. Yet he also knew that preparation includes rest. Rest is preparation. It allows you to meet the world not as a scattered, reactive mess, but as a calm, clear, capable force. Without rest, your philosophy remains theory. With it, philosophy becomes practice. Yet many of us trade sleep for false productivity. We stay up late finishing tasks, doom scrolling, or numbing out in front of screens. We think we're accomplishing more, but in truth, we're stealing from tomorrow, from our clarity, emotional resilience, and ability to show up fully. One of the most powerful decisions you can make for your mental and emotional well-being isn't to work harder, it's to sleep better. This doesn't mean perfection. You don't need a full 8 hours every night. But you do need rhythm, consistency, and a sacred boundary around your evenings. A boundary that says, this time is mine. This is when I reboot my soul. Dim the lights. Shut down the noise. Let your mind unwind. Give yourself the gift of transition from doing to being, from noise to stillness. And know it won't always be easy. You'll be tempted to check one more message or finish one more task. But remember this, a tired mind doesn't think, it complains. Building on the essential role of sleep in restoring and renewing your energy, let's now explore how to cultivate habits that protect your rest, as well as the power of stillness in your mental life. Sleep is not just downtime. It doesn't solve problems. In fact, neglecting it can create more. If you want better days, start with better nights. Protect your sleep as if your future depends on it, because it truly does. Make your bedroom a sanctuary, cool, dark, and quiet. No distractions, no judgments. Just a space where you're allowed to let go, to fall asleep, to heal. If sleep is difficult for you, begin with small steps. Consistent bedtimes, no screens at least an hour before sleep, gentle sounds, deep breathing. Not because you're chasing perfect sleep, but because you're honoring your mind's deepest need to rest and reset. Ask yourself, what would change in my life if I took my sleep as seriously as my goals? Every night you honor rest, you invest in the clarity, energy, and focus of the next day. You build a foundation no supplement or morning routine can replace. You can't outrun fatigue, but you can outsmart it by making sleep a ritual of self-respect. Reboot your soul night after night. Next, sit with yourself in stillness. When was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? No screen, no task, no distraction in front of you. Not scrolling, not planning, not trying to be productive, just sitting, breathing, listening in silence. For many today, that kind of stillness feels unnatural or even uncomfortable. Yet it is in this stillness that healing begins. Dopamine restores itself not through stimulation, but through presence. The nervous system finds balance. Your mind returns home. We live in an age of endless noise, notifications, algorithms, background music, to-do lists. Our senses are bombarded with inputs that may keep us occupied, but leave us disconnected from our inner voice, from clarity, from emotion, from truth. The Stoics understood this long before the digital age. They believed the mind must be trained, not only to think well, but to sit well, to endure silence, to face itself without flinching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That was not poetic advice. It was a command to retreat inward, not to escape life, but to return to it more present. From a scientific perspective, stillness through meditation and mindfulness directly increases dopamine and serotonin levels. It strengthens your brain's ability to regulate emotion and rewires the mind for clarity and calm. More than that, stillness gives you back your power. When you sit in silence, even for 5 minutes, you step out of reactivity. You stop running from your feelings. You allow emotion to rise, breathe, and settle. You begin to observe your thoughts instead of becoming them. You create space between impulse and action. And in that space, transformation happens. Let's ground this in reality. Suppose you're feeling overwhelmed. Normally, you might grab your phone, call someone, eat something, or distract yourself. But instead, you stop. You sit. You breathe. You ask, what am I actually feeling right now? You don't analyze it. You simply witness. Then suddenly, the noise softens. The emotion loosens its grip. The part of your brain that fuels dopamine, the reward and motivation system, begins to activate not from outside stimulation, but from your ability to be present with what is. Building on the power of stillness, let's explore why people who meditate regularly often report feeling more motivated, emotionally balanced, and focused. Not because they are escaping the world, but because they are facing it from a place of inner calm. Stillness doesn't have to mean sitting cross-legged in silence for an hour. It could be a quiet morning alone with a cup of tea. It might be 10 minutes with your eyes closed before starting the day, or a mindful walk without your phone, just breath and footsteps. The form doesn't matter. What matters is the intention. You're not performing stillness. You're remembering who you are beneath the noise. So ask yourself, what would happen if I gave myself 5 minutes of undistracted silence every day? Would you find clarity, peace, or grief you've been avoiding? Maybe. And all of that is okay, because stillness doesn't always feel good, but it always brings truth. And truth is the first step toward healing, growth, and mental resilience. You don't need to be a monk. You just need to be willing. Willing to pause, to sit, to hear the voice beneath the chaos. Because only in silence do we truly hear our own. And sometimes that voice once heard is all you need to find your way back. Fifth, set goals and celebrate small wins. Have you ever noticed how good it feels to cross something off your list, even something small? It's not about the task itself. It's about momentum. A sense of progress, a signal to your brain that you're moving forward no matter how slowly. That feeling, that rush of satisfaction, that's dopamine. and it's one of the most powerful, natural motivators your brain has. If you learn how to work with it instead of against it, dopamine thrives on achievement, but not just big milestones. It responds to progress, movement, evidence that you're no longer standing still. The problem is, most people wait too long to feel proud of themselves. They only celebrate when they've made it, when they lose all the weight, get the job, finish the book, heal completely. And in doing so, they rob their brains of the very reward signals that help them stay consistent. The Stoics weren't obsessed with success, but they understood the importance of direction. Epictetus said, "First, say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do." That's goal setting at its most honest. Not fantasy or wishful thinking, but a clear decision followed by consistent action. And that consistency is what gives birth to motivation. Not inspiration, not luck, but small intentional effort, repeated daily. Let's break this down practically. Suppose you have a big goal like improving your health, writing a book, changing careers, or developing emotional resilience. If you wait to feel good only when you reach the finish line, you'll burn out. Your brain will feel deprived. But if you set micro goals, drink a glass of water in the morning, write 100 words, take one deep breath instead of reacting, and then acknowledge those wins, dopamine flows. You train your brain to associate effort with reward. And this isn't just psychological fluff. Research shows that when we recognize and celebrate small wins, we reinforce neural pathways that make us more likely to keep going. We literally rewire ourselves to enjoy the process, not just the result. Think of a child learning to walk. Every step is celebrated. Every stumble is encouragement. Why do we stop doing that for ourselves as adults? Why do we dismiss progress just because it's not perfect? Greatness isn't built overnight. Building on the power of setting goals and celebrating small wins, let's explore how you can build yourself one honest decision at a time, grounded in clear intention. You build who you are becoming with each honest decision you make. Every one of these choices is a brick in the foundation of your evolving self. So make goal setting a practice, but ensure your goals are real and attainable. Then, track your wins, not for public recognition, but for yourself, for your own psychology. Keep a small journal, a note on your phone, or a quiet smile at the end of the day that says, "I showed up today. I moved forward." That's not weakness. That's wisdom. It's dopamine being built intentionally as a tool, not a trick. Don't underestimate what this does emotionally. Each time you celebrate a small win, you give your nervous system hope. You remind yourself that change is possible. You replace despair with direction. Slowly, your self-image shifts. You stop seeing yourself as stuck and start seeing yourself as someone in motion. Someone who shows up even when it's hard. Someone who keeps promises, even if they're small. So ask yourself now, what is one small thing I can do today that moves me closer to who I want to become? Then do it and celebrate it. Not with fanfare, but with awareness, presence, and the quiet pride that says, I did what I said I would do. Because those who rejoice in one step, one honest, quiet step, will one day reach the summit. Not because they rushed, but because they never stopped walking. 6. Listen to music that moves you. Have you ever played a song and suddenly everything changed? Your mood, your energy, your entire emotional state, that's not magic, that's dopamine. Music doesn't just entertain us, it literally moves us. Neuroscience shows that listening to music we enjoy activates the brain's reward system, increasing dopamine levels, creating feelings of pleasure, connection, and even clarity. That's why a song from 10 years ago can bring back a forgotten memory. That's why certain melodies make you want to cry. Not out of sadness, but recognition. Because music speaks a language beyond thought. It reaches the parts of us that words often cannot. And here's the beauty. It's accessible, immediate, and intimate. You don't need therapy, a journal, or a plan. You just need sound, carefully chosen, deeply felt. In the Stoic world, music wasn't a core principle, but the idea of harmonizing with life, tuning your inner state to something higher, absolutely was. Seneca often wrote about the importance of rhythm and emotional discipline. What is music if not rhythm personified? When you feel low, heavy, or foggy, music can serve as a bridge, a way out, a hand reaching into the darkness that says you're not alone. You can shift this moment, and the best part is it demands nothing from you. It doesn't ask you to talk, solve, or explain. It simply offers an emotional mirror, or sometimes an emotional reset. Let's get practical. You're stuck. You can't focus, you're anxious or feeling flat. Before you reach for another cup of coffee or scroll aimlessly, try this. Close your eyes. Put on a piece of music that truly resonates with you. Not background noise, not filler, but something meaningful. Let it wash over you. Feel where it lands in your body. Notice how your breath changes. Notice if your thoughts soften. This is not escapism. This is recalibration. Different music serves different states. Uplifting music can raise energy and spark motivation. Calming music can lower stress and bring you back into your body. Instrumental or classical music can improve focus by stimulating creative flow without overwhelming the mind. And sometimes sad music is exactly what you need. Not to deepen pain, but to give it space to breathe and leave. Building on the transformative power of music and how it can recalibrate your emotions, let's now explore the importance of intentionality in choosing the music you listen to, so it becomes more than background noise, but a tool to support your healing and growth. The key is intentionality. Don't just consume music like you consume noise. Choose it deliberately. Curate your emotional environment through sound. Use music as a tool, a companion on your journey of healing, thinking, and growing. Create playlists that serve your different states, mornings, reflection, movement, rest, and let them be yours. Not what's trending or popular, but what truly touches your heart. You'd be surprised how often motivation doesn't come from logic or routine, but from a single song that shakes the dust off your soul and reminds you who you are. That's the hidden power of sound, not distraction but alignment. Emotionally, this changes everything. You begin to realize you don't always need to fix how you feel. Sometimes you just need to feel it fully and let it move through you. Music offers you that space, that movement, that release. So ask yourself, what's the soundtrack to the version of me I'm becoming? What music awakens the part of me that's been quiet for too long? Play it, feel it, and let it do its quiet work. Because what cannot be expressed in words, music can carry. 7th, surround yourself with nourishing relationships. Have you ever left a conversation feeling lighter, more seen, more alive? And have you ever left another feeling completely drained, misunderstood, or quietly ashamed of yourself? That contrast isn't just emotional, it's chemical. Relationships shape your brain. The people you allow into your life directly influence your dopamine levels, your emotional resilience, your motivation, and even your sense of self-worth. Human connection isn't just a nice to have, it's essential for mental and emotional health. Dopamine increases in the presence of genuine connection, not surface-level interactions, endless texting, forced small talk, or attention-chasing behaviors. What your nervous system craves, what your soul craves, is authentic presence. Being with someone who truly listens, not just waits to speak. Someone who sees you beyond your roles, your masks, or your struggles. Someone who doesn't demand you be more, but naturally reminds you who you already are. The Stoics often spoke about friendship, but not the kind based on convenience or benefit. Seneca wrote, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. Such a bond nourishes your mind. It strengthens your inner world, broadens your perspective, and softens the weight of daily life. It isn't loud or clingy. It's calm, safe, and solid." Now, contrast that with toxic relationships, those where you feel small, anxious, or chronically unseen. Your brain senses threat in those dynamics. It switches into survival mode. Dopamine plummets. Your energy becomes reactive and scattered, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to shrink, doubt yourself, and live more on edge than in peace. You don't need to be surrounded by crowds to be mentally healthy. In fact, sometimes the crowd is the problem. What matters is quality, not quantity. One or two people who energize you, gently challenge you, and make you laugh from the heart are far more powerful than 50 shallow connections, because every interaction is an input. And over time, your brain becomes what it's most consistently exposed to. Let's get practical. Building on the importance of environment and relationships for mental health, let's now focus on the profound impact of social interactions and natural sunlight in our daily lives. Start paying attention to how you feel after every social interaction. Do you feel energized or drained? Centered or scattered? Clear or confused? This is not just emotion, it's biology. The more you honor these signals, the better you can curate an environment that supports your emotional and mental chemistry, rather than sabotaging it. Equally important, be that nourishing presence for others as well. Listen without trying to fix. Celebrate without comparison. Show up without performance. Be the kind of energy you wish someone would bring into your life, because connection is a mirror. When you offer that kind of space to someone else, you create conditions for genuine reciprocity. Not obligation, not drama, but mutual elevation. If you're feeling mentally heavy, unmotivated, or emotionally numb, don't just look inward, look around. Who is in your space? Who do you allow access to your mind, your energy, your time? And do they truly deserve that access? This is not about harshly judging others, but about protecting your peace. Because in the end, your environment, both internal and external, is the architecture of your well-being. Sometimes the most powerful step toward a healthier, more motivated mind is simply choosing to walk with better people. So ask yourself, who lifts me effortlessly? Who makes me feel more like myself? Who am I becoming by the company I keep? A true friend doesn't exhaust you. They restore you. And that kind of relationship isn't a luxury, it's medicine. Next, let the sun touch your skin. When was the last time you simply stepped outside? Not to get somewhere, not to be productive, but just to feel the sunlight on your face. We have become so accustomed to artificial environments, fluorescent lights, filtered air, glowing screens, that we forget we're not designed for indoor living. We are not just minds and muscles. We are biology. We are chemistry. And sunlight is more than warmth. It is a powerful biological trigger that profoundly affects how we feel, think, and function. Science confirms this. Sunlight increases the production of vitamin D, which helps regulate mood, immunity, and sleep. But just as importantly, exposure to natural sunlight increases dopamine levels in the brain, especially in areas responsible for motivation and focus. Morning light particularly stimulates dopamine pathways, helping you feel more awake, present, and engaged. This is not spiritual fluff, it's biochemistry. The Stoics may not have understood ultraviolet rays or dopamine receptors, but they understood the healing power of nature. They spent time outdoors not to escape, but to align. Marcus Aurelius found clarity under the stars. Seneca reflected on mountains and rivers. Nature was not merely a backdrop for life, it was life itself. And they knew that to think clearly, you must return to what is natural. Yet most of us live severed from that rhythm. We sleep past sunrise, live behind curtains, spend our best hours indoors, seated and staring at glowing rectangles. And then, we wonder why we feel foggy, irritable, and restless. It's not weakness, it's misalignment. Your nervous system was built to respond to the sun. It's the original signal for your circadian rhythm, your inner clock. Building on the profound benefits of sunlight and being present in nature, let's now explore the simple yet powerful step you can take to recalibrate your mind and body. In today's fast-paced world, when you ignore this connection, your dopamine suffers, your sleep suffers, your mood suffers, and your willpower weakens. But the solution is both simple and deeply human. Step outside, even for just 5 minutes. Even if the sky is cloudy, let your eyes, free of sunglasses, absorb natural light. Let your skin feel the breeze. Let your breath slow down, and don't bring your phone. Don't check your notifications. Just stand, walk, simply be. It is in these quiet moments that your body recalibrates and your mind begins to return to center. This isn't about sunbathing or turning nature into a productivity hack. It's about remembering you belong to the world, not just the internet. And the real physical world offers a kind of medicine no screen, supplement, or podcast can replicate. The rhythm of light, the warmth on your skin, the sound of leaves rustling, the stillness of a tree. These are not distractions, they are resets. Here's what happens when you make this a habit. Your mood improves. Your anxiety lowers. Your sleep deepens. Your thoughts become more spacious. You begin to notice the beauty in things you used to rush past. Slowly, your brain thanks you with dopamine that flows not from chasing, but from simply being. So ask yourself, when was the last time I let the sun touch me without distraction? What would change if I made morning light part of my daily rhythm? What if the first thing I reached for each day wasn't a screen, but the sky? Because what books cannot heal, morning light sometimes can. Next, do what you love, not just what's expected. When did you stop doing things simply because they made you feel alive? When did joy become something to schedule, justify, or postpone until after everything else was done? Somewhere along the path to adulthood, many of us traded what we love for what we should do. And in that trade, something subtle but essential was lost. Our natural connection to dopamine. The kind that flows from doing things that awaken your spirit. Not just checking off tasks, doing what you love. Whether painting, cooking, building, writing, gardening, crafting, running, playing music, reading fiction, or simply sitting in nature is not a luxury. It's a neurological necessity. Activities that fully engage your attention and bring joy from within activate your brain's reward system. They create sustainable dopamine, the kind that doesn't crash after a spike. And the more time you spend immersed in these passions, the more emotionally balanced, focused, and energized you become. The Stoics believed in duty, yes, but also in eudaimonia, the flourishing of the soul. They didn't separate virtue from joy. They believed that living in alignment with your nature meant living with clarity, purpose, and yes, pleasure. Not shallow pleasure, not indulgence, but the deep fulfillment that comes from expressing who you truly are. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So how often do your thoughts turn toward what truly moves you? Make this real. Think of a time when you were completely absorbed in something you loved. Hours passed like minutes. Your worries quieted. Your mind sharpened. You weren't thinking about productivity. You were simply present. That is what doing what you love does for your dopamine. It creates focus without force, energy without strain, clarity without caffeine. But too often we abandon these activities in the name of responsibility. We tell ourselves we don't have time, that it's not productive, that we'll get to it someday. But here's the truth. Continuing the journey of self-care through small habits, let's explore the importance of making space for what truly fuels your soul. Because if you don't, you risk burning out by only doing what drains you. If you don't make room for what energizes you, you'll burn out doing what exhausts you. There is no virtue in abandoning yourself, and there is no wisdom in living solely to meet others' expectations. Start small. Dedicate 15 minutes to something that brings you joy, and protect that time as if it matters, because it truly does. Allow yourself to enjoy without justification. Let yourself create without the need for perfection. Let yourself remember who you were before the world told you what you had to become. No, this doesn't mean quitting your job or neglecting responsibilities. It means reclaiming a part of yourself that was never meant to die. Your curiosity, your wonder, your creative fire. Because when you nourish that part of you, everything else improves. Your mood lifts, your energy increases, your resilience strengthens, and dopamine flows. Not from proving something, but from simply being. So ask yourself, what did I once love that I've neglected? What small act of joy can I return to today? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until you have time. Make time not because it's urgent, but because it's essential. Happiness isn't a goal. It's a practice, and it begins by unapologetically doing what enlivens you. Next, release stress. Don't just resist it. How much energy do you spend holding everything together? Keeping a smile when your chest feels heavy? Showing up for everyone else while your own mind screams for rest? Telling yourself to be strong while your body quietly begs for stillness? We live in a world that glorifies resilience, but often misunderstands it. True resilience isn't about resisting stress until collapse. It's about knowing when and how to release it, to let it flow through you without owning you. Chronic stress is one of the most dangerous thieves of mental and emotional health. It drains your nervous system, clouds your thinking, and blocks Natural dopamine production. Over time, it rewires your brain to expect pressure, fear rest, and associate stillness with failure. The longer stress stays trapped, the more it controls your mood, energy, clarity, and will to move forward. But the Stoics knew something profound. You can't control what life throws at you, but you can control your response. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring your feelings. It means giving yourself space to process them wisely, gently, and intentionally, instead of pretending they don't exist. The problem is most of us don't release stress. We either store it or escape it. We bottle it up, carry it as tension in our shoulders and jaw, or distract ourselves with noise, scrolling, and numbing habits. But emotion is energy, and what isn't released stays. It builds. It turns into anxiety, fatigue, restlessness, or even burnout. Releasing stress isn't weakness. It's what allows your nervous system to return to balance and your dopamine levels to rise naturally again. So, what does releasing stress actually look like? Sometimes it's physical, taking a long walk, deep breathing, stretching, cold showers, or exercise. Sometimes it's emotional, crying without judgment, journaling without editing, talking to someone who sees you without trying to fix you. Building on the practice of releasing stress and returning to balance, let's now dive deeper into the power of allowing yourself to feel and let go. A journey that's not just about technique, but about willpower and self-respect. Whether it's meditation, prayer, stillness, or gratitude, what truly matters is not the method but the intention. You're telling yourself, I am allowed to feel this. I am safe to release this. I am not defined by it. Here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop resisting stress, when you allow it to rise and pass like a wave, you return to yourself and begin to think clearly again. Your motivation comes back. Your emotional capacity expands because your brain, freed from the grip of survival mode, starts producing dopamine again. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer at war with your experience. Make this a practice, a daily ritual of letting go, even if it's just 5 minutes. Place your hand on your heart and breathe deeply. Name what you're holding, then exhale it. Not all at once, but bit by bit. Teach your body that release is safe. Let your stress speak, then let it go. Because when the body rests, the heart breathes. And when the heart breathes, the mind speaks clearly. So ask yourself, where am I carrying stress that no longer belongs to me? What would it feel like to release instead of resist? Don't wait for a breakdown. Choose the wisdom of release now, because your peace isn't something to be earned after the work is done. It's part of the work. And the more you release, the more you rise. Your brain is not broken. Your soul is not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're simply exhausted from chasing balance in a world that never taught you where to look. But the truth is, everything you need to heal, to focus, to feel alive again is already inside you. And dopamine, this small but mighty chemical, is just the messenger. What it responds to isn't noise or perfection. It responds to consistency, to intention, to the small acts of self-respect you choose each day. You don't need a radical transformation. You don't need to fix your entire life overnight. What you need is to return to movement, to nourishment, to stillness, to sunlight, to joy, to friendship, to rest, to the daily decisions that tell your nervous system, I am here. I am healing. I am ready to feel again. The Stoics didn't chase happiness, they cultivated clarity. They didn't numb their emotions. They trained their minds to respond instead of react. And that same clarity is available to you right now, in your body, in your breath, in the steps you choose after this episode ends. So don't wait for motivation. Build it. Don't wait to feel better. Create the conditions that help you come alive. You have more power than you think. And dopamine, it's not the goal. It's the signal telling you when you're living in alignment and when you're drifting. Start small. Stay consistent. Trust the process, because improving your mental and emotional well-being isn't about chasing intensity. It's about honoring the basics deeply, daily. If this episode helped reset your perspective, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more reflections that reconnect you to what truly matters. And above all, keep showing up. The smallest habits often build the strongest lives.